All footy fans can think about is State of Origin game 2, but the NRL, it ain't stopping for anyone. So let's get straight into our round 17 tips. The team list, they'll come out when this video goes up, but honestly, they're probably not that important. So keep your tipping ready because these teams are going to be changing 1 hour before kickoff. Who backs up from Origin, we'll find out as always. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, smash that like button if you enjoy the video. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any footy content coming your way. And we're almost at 5K, so be a part of the journey. Drop your round 17 tips down below. And let's get straight into the video. And in one of the all-time Friday night primetime games, the Dragons, they'll be hosting the New Zealand Warriors. All the talk around the Dragons has been Ben Hunt. This could well and truly be his final game for the Dragons. And maybe the Dragons don't want to rest him because, well, he might get a few negative comments from those Dragons fans out there at Wynn Stadium. They've had so much off-the-field trauma. You add that to their form as well. And I just think the New Zealand Warriors, coming off a week off, they've been great this year. They're not Origin affected at all. I think they're going to be way too strong for the Dragons. In fact, they're probably going to win 13+. The Dolphins, they're trying to pick up their form after that demoralising loss to Manly. They had the bye last week. They're taking on the Parramatta Eels up there in the Sunshine Coast. It'll be interesting to see if Mitchy Moses and Junior Barlow back up. In saying that, I do feel like the Dolphins, they might have finally hit the wall. Sean O'Sullivan is expected to return. When you look at the teams on paper, the Eels are much better the side. But maybe the Dolphins can surprise us. They've surprised us all year, but I just feel like they've maybe just finally hit the wall we've all expected them to. They've had the bye. Maybe they'll come back refreshed. And in saying that, Parramatta are the team who loses this sort of game, but I don't have the balls to pick against them. Then the Panthers, they're taking on the Newcastle Knights, who should be pretty disappointed they couldn't beat the Sydney Roosters. Penrith, it'll be interesting to see who backs up for them. They were pretty good against the Cowboys in attack at least last week. It'll be interesting to see how they go defensively up against what will probably be a full-strength Knights side. And saying that, for as many players as they're going to be missing, it's just so hard to tip against the Penrith Panthers. The Knights, they probably should see this as a must-win game. It's at Bluebet as well. I could definitely see the Knights getting the win because on paper, they probably at least match the Penrith Panthers. But this Panthers side, you're going to have to play your best to beat them, and I just think they'll be too much for Newey. Then the main event of the round, one of the biggest games of the season. Here we go again. It is Melbourne versus Manly. DC and Munster, they're best friends on Wednesday. They're enemies on Saturday. The round earlier, whatever. I know round earlier is not really a round per se, but the match they played earlier, it wasn't the best quality match, especially the second half, but talk about two teams that still hate each other. It's crazy. We're all these years removed from those grand finals and the Battle of Brookie, but the matches these teams have played, bunch-ups, shoulder charges, sin bins, it's been just chaos, and this should be another crazy installment. Look, Manly, it'll be crazy if they play Tommy Turbo. Jake Trbojevic, he's still going to be missing another week. DC will probably back up, but Manly, they're just a hard team to pick. You take out those Trbojevic brothers, and look, I think Melbourne will win. Obviously, I'm tipping Manly. You guys know the rules by now. But I think Melbourne will be able to get a close win in this game. Sunday kicks off with one of the Queensland derbies, the Broncos playing the Titans. It'll be interesting to see whether, Tino and Fafita will probably definitely back up. But it'll be interesting to see what Kevy does, because I don't think the Broncos have really been tested since Kevy's been there when it comes to Origin depth, per se. So they're going to be missing a lot of starters. So it'll be interesting to see if they back up or not. Even if they don't, I think the Brisbane Broncos are going to be way too good for the Titans. The Titans, they've had their 3 byes, so they're sitting in 9th, which looks pretty good, but they've only won 6 games. So, yeah, it's going to be hard for them to beat the Brisbane Broncos, especially because I think this is the last Broncos home game at Suncorp before they move to the Gabba. The main event on Sunday in this game, I reckon, could be an absolute cracker. The Bunnies, they're taking on the Cowboys. It's CJ Moxley taking on the big dog, Nick from Australia. It'll be interesting to see what the Rabbitohs do. I doubt they're going to play Cameron Murray. I expect Cookie might back up. It is the Sunday, so I guess it's the biggest stretch, the biggest layoff you could have between the games. I mean, some players, some teams, they play on a 5-day turnaround. What's a 4-day turnaround? But with the Murray injury, I doubt he'll play. The Cowboys, they're only missing their outside backs. Maybe they'll rest Nano, but Holmes and Taulagi and Cotter, they'll definitely back up. Look, the Cowboys, the only thing that's stopping me from tipping them is their poor record in Sydney. Latrell Mitchell, apparently he is expected to play, and so is Cody Walker. So the Bunnies, they started the season red hot. They've sort of dipped down recently during the origin period as we expected they would, but back in a core, I think this might also be their last home game before the Women's World Cup takes over. So I'm going to tip them to get a good win over the Cowboys. And then finally, the Roosters, they're taking on the Raiders, and considering their form and considering the players they've got not playing Origin, they're probably the one team you don't want to play. The Roosters, they need to win, so I expect all their big dogs, they'll turn up. I'm surprised the Roosters are favourites because on form, and I'm actually going to tip the Canberra Raiders. The Roosters, they got a good win last week, and, you know, I think that what I said in my tips video last week sort of came true, is that you take a few more stars, it simplifies everyone's role. They're missing Luke Keary. Like I said, maybe you just need a Drew Hutchinson who's just going to tell the superstars what they need to do rather than them all overplaying their hand, which has been the story all season. I really hope Manu goes back to the centres. He's definitely not a 6. Maybe you could just play him on the wing and have him roam, but Trent Robinson hasn't been able to figure it out for 18 months, so it's going to be hard for me not to tip the Canberra Raiders, especially coming off a bye and especially considering the form that they are in. Bit tongue twisted there at the end, but there are my round 17 tips for the 2023 NRL season. I'm taking the Wars to beat the Dragons 13+, the Eels to beat the Finns 1-12, the Panthers to beat the Knights 1-12, Manly to beat the Storm 1-12, but yeah, I wouldn't blame you if you tipped the Storm. The Broncos to beat the Titans 1-12. The Bunnies to beat the Cowboys 1-12. And the Raiders to beat the Roosters 1-12. Ladies and gentlemen, drop your round 17 tips down below. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel because Origin is all we're going to be talking about unless the Blues lose. And then I probably will wipe my face off the earth. But ladies and gentlemen, do the big 3 and enjoy your Origin football. Friday Night Footy.